On today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast, we have 4 players that we are selling after the first week of NFL free agency. I'm your host, Sean Moran, and I am joined by my co-host, my good friend, my fellow knower of ball, Aidan Haller. Aidan, we took the week off last week, recharged our batteries, free agency happened. A lot has happened. How are you doing, man? Good to see you. Good to be talking with you.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Free agency is awesome. It is the first domino to fall in the new 2025 NFL season. So very exciting to see as people are flipping around teams, offenses are changing, and yeah, we're starting to get a look into who we're targeting, who we're getting rid of, what the 2025 fantasy landscape is going to look like. So I'm fired up. How are you doing?
You know, our teams respectively had very different off seasons
They
in free
they
agency
did.
period. Very, very different. The Bears have acquired all of their entire offensive line, and the Niners let their entire defense walk. So yeah, pretty stark contrast for free agency so far between our favorite teams.
Yeah. The rosters going into it were very different, though. Like, we needed a lot of pieces. You probably just had a couple of redundant pieces that kind of walked, and then you got a ton of picks. So,
I
we still got
think,
the draft. We still got the
yeah,
draft.
the Niners saw what the Rams did. How they let up overpriced veterans walk, and then they just had 24 draft picks in back-to-back years. And I think the Niners are just going to do the same exact thing. We'll see if it works. Hopefully no kickers in the third round, but we'll see. We'll see here from the 49ers brass. But
Oh,
enough about our
God.
teams. We've got a great episode here today. So we're going to have a two-parter. We're going to have our buys. We're going to have our sells. We're going to kick things off with our sells before we get our buys. If you've rocked with our channel, you know how this works. Aiden and I both have a couple sells. We're going to walk you through the bull and bear case. We're going to kind of give you a breakdown of the risk and reward of trading away this player in Dynasty. This is a great time to make trades because people love the overreact. And a lot of people have like name brand in their head of like, oh, this guy, like, he wasn't very good because he was in this situation. Now he's in this new situation. Boom, he's going to be worth it. And sometimes some of the worst trades can happen after NFL free agency. For example, I acquired Daniel Jones after he signed his big free agency contract because I was like, hey, look, they're committing to him. That was a rough trade a couple years ago. It's a good time to sell players that are being overvalued because of their new contracts. So I'm excited to jump through it with you, Aiden. But outside of that, man, I'm sure, though, that there are people for the first time that have clicked on one of our videos. They want to get an idea of who we are, what we're about. What should the good people at home be expecting, Aiden?
Yeah, it's we do it all here at RTM. We do not limit ourselves to any specific part of fantasy football. So right now we're going to be covering some Dynasty. We cover the draft. We cover redraft itself. We do a little best ball. That was what I was just blanking on a second ago. My brain stopped working there. But we do a little bit of it all. So year round, we're talking different parts of the fantasy football landscape, just really football in general, keeping you guys connected. We keep it pretty light here. We've got some good data. We've got some fun hot takes as well. So we like to live somewhere in the middle, but it's really just some good banter with the boys is the vibes we're after here. So happy to have you here. If it's the first time, if you've been riding with us since day one, welcome back. Always love the fellow mean team. Standing 10 toes in the comments. So, yeah, excited to have you here. Let us know what you think. Feel free to just shoot it up in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever you're feeling. But, yeah, we're excited to hopefully give you some good takes here for some buys and sells.
I can't promise good takes, but I can promise good banter. That I
That
can promise.
That's all we can give you every single time. Guaranteed.
And we're coming out of the gates with, I think, something that you disagree with, or we'll see. We'll see if you disagree with it or not. But the first player that I'm selling, and a player that I think if I had on my dynasty roster right now, and I would be looking to sell as fast as humanly possible, is our guy, Justin Fields. Signs a 2-year, $40 million contract here with the New York Jets. He's going to be the starter. He left Pittsburgh because he knew Pittsburgh wasn't really going to fully commit to him, it sounded like. So he has the new gig with the New York Jets. He is going to be the starter at least for year one. We'll see. We'll see how they approach it. A $20 million contract is by no means a guarantee that this guy is the guy, but it's good for his prospects, at least for probably the first 8 to 10 weeks of the year. Justin Fields is 26. He's entering year 5. This is now his third team in 3 years. It currently is the QB 26 over on Keep Trade Cut. Why would I sell Justin Fields at this point? So in investing, a lot of people talk about buying the dip, right? You buy the dip when an asset goes low. What people don't talk about as much and how you actually make money is when you sell the rip. And I think it's a perfect time to sell the rip because Justin Fields is up 36 spots over on Keep Trade Cut, and his stock has rebounded dramatically. So I think it's time. I think it's time. If you've been holding on to Fields, you can trade a guy who is most likely a stopgap quarterback who still has big fans in the fantasy football community, who will likely overpay for his ceiling without probably contextualizing his floor. Now, again, if you make that trade, there are going to be some risks, Aidan. Maybe Fields thrives with the New York Jets. Maybe it isn't Daniel Jones. Maybe it isn't Sam Darnold. Maybe Justin Fields is going to be Baker Mayfield. Gets to his new team. They put the resources around him and he thrives. So there are some risks considering Justin Fields, when he hits his ceiling, he is up there with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson in terms of what he can do as a rusher and a thrower when he reaches his peak ceiling. And we've even seen that last year. He had a 35-point game, a 25-point game. 2023 was kind of a mess. He has multiple 30 burgers, 28, 28. So the ceiling, as we know with Fields, is incredibly high. The floor is almost non-existent. So because of that, because his stock is rebounding, because people are so QB needy in Dynasty leagues, Aidan, I think it's a perfect time to sell the rip, get off Justin Fields, get a late 1, early 2, mid 2, depending how people are desperate. I just think this is something that a fantasy manager can easily convince themselves and talk themselves into believing that Fields is an answer for them as their QB2 in Superflex. So, man, yeah, I'm selling Justin Fields. I'm gonna get out while I still can. But I know you're a big Justin Fields guy. Am I underselling his bull case here? Am I being a little too pessimistic? What are your thoughts?
So I think if you could get a first round pick for Justin Fields, you have to do it. Unless you are just like barren with QBs on your roster, like you do truly have no QBs, no real means to starting 2 QBs going into next year. But I've kind of been going both ways with this on this one. There's a chance that it works out for Justin Fields and he kind of, finds that starting job and runs with it and is, a good QB in the NFL for years to come. We've seen him when he's at his game, what he's capable of. It's top 10, top 5 QB upside because of the legs. Even if the passing, is only, borderline 200 yards a game, like that's fine because he supplements it with, half of a running back inside of him too. But there's also a world where this guy's benched by like week 8 or 9. The contract isn't, they're not tied to him really. It's 20 million fully guaranteed this year. 20 million again next year, but only 10 of that's guaranteed. So like if it looks bad and we're tanking for Mr. Manning, there's a world where this guy only plays into, call it October, maybe even November. And yeah, you're without anything. Cause like it could fully bottom out. Like, this is Justin Fields' last like shot at a starting QB job in the NFL. So like, we know what he can be. Like we've seen it. It's a really fun fantasy QB, and in my opinion, there's a lot of pieces in New York for him to succeed. I know like people give the Jets a lot of shit, but man, they still have Garrett Wilson. They still have Breece Hall. They still have some pieces up on the line. Early draft capital this year. Maybe they go and get a Tyler Warren type. I wouldn't say the Jets are like short of talent on that team, and like. He's fully going to get that job. This isn't like last summer where it was him versus Russ. Fields kind of gets the rug pulled after, what a lot of people thought was fine. Like he wasn't amazing, but he did his job as a QB. So, like I lean hold, but that's probably the wrong move here. Like I think you probably get rid of him unless like you just have no other QBs on roster. But if you can still get a first round pick for Justin Fields, it's you kind of have to do it. I'd be shocked if you can do it. Even an early second, I'm still kind of thinking about it, but it's
2026 first, 2027 first. Like I'm just like, dude, like if you can get one of those assets down the road, like
go get
again, it's
Jeremiah.
not. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like it's super exciting, but you could get something that could be awesome for you if you're
Yeah.
patient, right? And look, you've already held Justin Fields for a while. You're already pretty patient, right? To a degree, if
Oh
you've
yeah.
held him through the ups and downs. I just do think the risk though is pretty clear. Like if he comes out and plays well, like his teammates love him. If the organization really falls in love with him, like again, the Jets are just dying for competent, steady QB play. And if it becomes pretty clear that he can offer them that, he could easily be in the QB 12, QB 15 range in Dynasty if he were to get like a long term extension. So there is risk there. I will say though, when he plays, dude, in fantasy, he has some huge spike weeks, like huge. Like he can win you weeks outright. But again, in 2023, he dealt with a ton of injuries, was super inconsistent. And 2022, we all know the story. He was injured too, but I mean, the guy was just a freak. I honestly think in terms of rushing quarterbacks,
He's the
it's
best one.
Lamar and it's Allen, and then it's Fields. Like Fields is in that category. His
And
speed is so
I'd almost
legit.
put him higher than like he's faster
You
than
can't put him
Josh
ahead of
Allen.
Lamar, but you can't put him ahead of Lamar. You just can't
Uh,
do it.
I don't know. Yeah, probably not. But like, I don't know. That 2023 season when he was running, like he was better than Lamar that year. Um,
You mean you 2022 when he rushed
yeah.
for a
Oh yeah,
thousand
yeah,
yards?
yeah. Sorry, 2022. I mean, like he
Crazy.
was better than Lamar that year on the ground. But to your point, yeah, it's
160 rushes as a quarterback. That's
this
crazy,
is
man.
like this is such a volatile asset. Like this could, it's either gonna like turn out like really well or it's gonna fully bottom out. Like there's like there's no world where this is just like a whatever outcome here. Like it's it's either gonna be like really fruitful for you or you're gonna end up with a guy that like you can't even get a second or third round pick for after a couple months. So it's depends your risk appetite, depends what other QBs you have on roster, but it's everyone has
Like
an opinion on Justin Fields, which is good too. Like everyone has one, whether it's good or bad.
I'll say this: like Daniel Jones right now is the QB 36. Fields is the QB 26. In a vacuum, how different are those two?
Fields is way better, but I don't know. I guess that like they're similar. Like Fields has a starting job. Actually, that's the biggest part. Fields
Oh,
has a
I
starting
think
job.
Jones is going to run away with that starting job. And I'm an A Rich guy, but I don't think A Rich has a chance.
I
I
but I
think
think they
Chris Ballard
want.
is going to bury A Rich in the ground, and he's going to do anything to keep his job, and he's going to blame everything on Anthony Richardson. I feel like that's what they're going to do. They're going to throw that kid under the bus so Steichen and Ballard can keep
It's
their
hit.
jobs.
Yeah,
That's what I
I
feel
think
like is going to happen.
he should be fired regardless. But yeah, I guess they're not too different. But Fields has a starting job, so
I guess, yeah,
that
that's fair.
that I can say with certainty, which is exciting.
All right, man. I feel pretty good about that sell. I really do. This one, it
Yeah, this
wouldn't
one's a little
be
spicier.
it wouldn't be an RTM episode if we didn't at least talk about George Pickens, another Steeler
We
for
talk about
the
George Pickens
2023
all the
Steelers.
time, all the time. Um, this is a guy that I've always like never been all in on. I think like
No,
this is a guy that the fantasy community thinks is different than who he really is. And that's just the bottom line. Like we see the flashy catches and like we see the highlights and we're like, holy shit, wide receiver one George Pickens. But just like taking a step back, who is George Pickens here? 24 years old, still very young, going into his fourth NFL season. Currently the wide receiver 30 on keep trade cut. Kind of like my main angle here is like I don't even know if you're the alpha anymore on a very run first offense. So like that's a problem to start with. You probably still get a late first for George Pickens, so like pretty similar price tag to Justin Fields in my opinion. It's not cheap to acquire him, but in terms of like
dude,
potential,
his
it's
his value is falling. Aiden, this is I didn't
oh
know
for
it was
sure.
this bad. Yeah, it's a late first in 2026 for Pickens right now on
But I
keep
think
trade
it's pretty
cut.
warranted. So I guess like what's the risk versus reward here? Like obviously the reward is we've seen the trade. Like he has flashed elite wide receiver trades. Like there's no doubt about that. He's not the best separator, but this guy has contested catch, point of catch, just absolute beast at the point of catch. Like no other way to put it. Insane body control. But the risk is like This offense is a fucking disaster. Like Arthur Smith is just run first, run first, run first, and now we've got DK, who they also like. Not only did they trade for him, which was already an issue, they locked him up. They locked him up to an extension immediately. So, in my opinion, like best case for George Pickens, he gets out of Pittsburgh. Like he gets out of Pittsburgh. I'm going at this with the assumption that George Pickens is not getting shipped out of Pittsburgh and he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. So like the
That's my
good is
assumption too.
he's really young. Like he's really young. The guy's 24. He's not even in his prime, you could argue. Like, right around 25, 26, like his best years of football are still ahead of him. The next part, this could be good or bad. New QB is on the way. Yeah, we don't know who that is yet. We don't know who's be playing QB there. I know they just signed Mason Rudolph. That's obviously going to be
Rodgers.
it feels like it's probably going to be Rodgers. I don't know. Lots of QB uncertainty, but like then just like looking at it, like he's never been better than wide receiver 30, and like we still keep talking about him as this guy that is going to be like a top 10 wideout. It's like at some point the sample is there. Like the sample is fully here at this point. Like the Steelers' offense is not friendly for
No.
top end wide receivers, but at least the last couple of years he had a chance as the only person. Like it was a vacuum. We knew he was the only capable person there. And now with DK, it's like there's a world where DK easily outproduces him this year. Like, and George Pickens is just like
Probably.
second or third fiddle in this offense. So it's I don't know. Like he could get traded, and I think getting traded would save his career and save his dynasty value. But at this point, man, go get a late first and move on from George Pickens. Go draft a Matthew Golden or something. Like I'm just reset the clock on your wide receiver or skill position player. There's so many good wideouts, or not wide, but like wideouts and running backs combined, plus like tight ends. Like there's a lot of really fun skill players in this draft. And in my opinion, like I don't know, we're going into year 4. Like this might just be who George Pickens is, especially if he's just trapped in Pittsburgh forever.
It's tough because this is the exact type of player that can burn you either way, right? Where if you trade him, and all of a sudden the QB play is just elevated completely, and he's getting force fed targets, and for the first time in his career, he's playing in a good offense in Pittsburgh. If the QB plays better, and then all of a sudden it's like 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, and it's like, okay, this is exactly what we were expecting. But then it can go the other way, where it's like this guy's just like out of the league because he's a dipshit. It's like a knucklehead, right? So like he's a super risky. He's just such a risky player, and I do think that the Steelers probably keep him this year. But it's one of those situations where if he plays really well, he's gonna just get tagged, or they're gonna bring him back. They're just gonna T. Higgins him. They're just not gonna let him walk. That doesn't really seem like their modus operandi. So. Yeah, man, I think this is a fair call out. His value is super low right now because the DK trade, because we don't know who the quarterback is, because he plays in Arthur Smith's offense. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt with George Pickens. I'm not out here buying at wide receiver 31, but if for some reason it gets like 35, 36, continues to drop down the ranks, I think he actually is an interesting buy low, but I'm not giving up a 2025 first. Maybe a 2026 first. I don't even want to do that. I'd rather trade him straight up for a player receiver. Like if you look at some guys that he's valued against right now, like you could trade him straight up for Brandon Ayuk, Derrick Henry, Tua. Like I'd be more willing to do something like that than give up my flexibility with a rookie or with somebody I can acquire with that pick. So,
gosh, yeah, I don't love the players around him at all.
I just I'm
Derek. Like I'd love to have Luther Burden instead of George Pickens.
I'd rather have Pickens than I'm not that high on Burden. But
yeah, you're not a Burden guy. I've been a Burden guy since his sophomore year though.
I can be swayed. with Luther Burden.
We'll see where he goes though. Obviously,
flag plant Burden guy. But yeah. I think this is smart. Just if you want to wash your hands and get out of the George Pickens business, I wouldn't blame you. But man, if he falls even more, I think he could be an interesting buy low, in my opinion. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good sell if you just want to get out, flush the vibes, and move on with your life, man. So yeah. We got another Steeler or ex-Steeler. This is kind of crazy here.
We got three. We
We
got
got
three.
three of them. We got Fields, Pickens, and Najee Harris, which was the battery essentially for the Pittsburgh Steelers to start last year of starting quarterback, starting running back, starting wide receiver. This one is pretty straightforward in my opinion. Selling Najee Harris, just signed with the Los Angeles Chargers on a 1-year deal. Just turned 27, entering his 5th year in the league. This is another sell the rip situation, guys. Najee Harris, again, has been productive, and I'd say a little bit younger still, 27. Running backs are getting a little bit older, but like, guys, who are we kidding? Najee Harris had in that crazy year 1 because he got
Those are the catches.
94 targets because of Noodle Arm Big Ben. He has not come close to that production since, and he can be a decent floor setting RB3 flex type, but I just don't think anyone's winning fantasy championships with Najee Harris on their roster. And you can sell the rip on this one. Najee Harris is way up. He's now RB26 on Keep Trade Cut. People are loving this. They're excited about the fit. And I get it, man. Like Greg Roman's offense, they like to pound the rock. Justin Herbert is a mobile quarterback, but Justin Herbert likes to make the smart play. He checks down to running backs a ton. And there's a world where Najee thrives. And, he's producing more at that like 240 fantasy point clip, which is a useful season for sure. But man, I just feel like I take advantage of this. Like this is exciting for Najee Harris believers, and fantasy managers know Najee. He's a known commodity, and like it's just a 1-year deal, Aiden. And they could easily take somebody in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft to pair with Najee. And Greg Roman has played committees pretty consistently in rotations with running backs. So I don't know, man. Like I get it. He's a known commodity. People like Najee a ton, but I don't think he's a good enough player to trade away who will bite you in the ass. Like I just don't. It's like, oh no, you traded what, a mid 2025 second for him, and all of a sudden, he has a good year. It's probably just 1 year that he has a good year. I don't see him having a huge
The 1-year deal too. It's not like they signed him to some lucrative, like committed contract. It's like what 1 year, like 10 mil. It was I forgot. 9.25. Yeah, it was like 10 million.
I mean, it's a nice deal. It's a nice deal. Like
it is a good deal.
It's good money for running back. Like he's gonna play a lot this year. Like he plays every game. He's gonna see a shit ton of receptions, in targets. Like he's probably gonna rush for 1,000. These are all things he's done. But oh no, you could have gotten a high 2025 second or a late first versus a mid. Like I just feel like this is a great time to sell Najee Harris. The vibes are going to be super high on him for the first time in a while. And I just don't see anything materially changing from his point per game production. Useful player, but you're not winning fantasy championships with Najee Harris. So I would sell him now.
I doubt
27. Get out of the Najee business while you can.
And I think there's a chance he's a bit more productive as I do think the Chargers this year are going to be a much better offense than the Steelers. So, like, I do think there's a world, he's been, like, right around 20 the last 2 years. Maybe he gets up to, like, 15 or so. But, yeah, I'd be fine moving off of him. Like, I saw the signing, and I was like, good for the Chargers. To be, like, like, that's a good fit
Good
for him.
NFL signing. It's a good NFL signing for sure.
In the Harbaugh offense, I'm like, absolutely. But, like you go back to his value, it's probably, like, like an early to mid-second. And I'm like, pull up a mock. I'm like, who's going there again right now? I'm like, give me Judkins or Caleb Johnson. I'm like, let's reset this thing. Like, give me
Johnson.
Give me an for some juice.
Come
so
on.
like,
yeah.
And I thought you were gonna go there too. Is I feel like it's something we talk about a lot with running backs in Dynasty. It's like, go ahead and reset the clock, especially with the running back position, because like the wheels fall off the bus pretty fast, especially for a guy that hasn't missed a single game in his NFL career. Like this is a guy that like there is
innings eater for sure.
There's some tread on the tires, but like how much? I don't know. Not a lot left. It's like I'd be shocked if Najee plays like beyond 30. This is a guy that has taken a beating during his career. So it's like, yeah, I'm just resetting the clock, and it's nothing against Najee. Like I typically draft Najee here and there in redraft and best ball because like the price is actually pretty good these days. Like what was really brutal was after his after the rookie season when you just got absolutely cooked for drafting him in the first or second round. That was awful. But like,
let's see what his ADP was. The RB3.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
Look at that.
Like,
oh,
but like,
geez.
in my opinion, like in redrafted best ball, I'll probably still dabble on some Najee. Like the price is right. But in Dino, yeah, I don't know. There's just doesn't feel like he has a whole lot more to give. So I'd be totally fine resetting the clock. Go and get yourself an early or mid second for him. Just go snag one of these RBs from this class. It's so freaking deep, dude. And we've got so many good running backs. There's also a chance the Chargers like draft a guy on day two to sit behind Najee,
Totally.
and then
Dude,
he's not a
they could
workhorse
take
anymore.
one in
Which
day
like
one. They might take
yeah,
one in day. You never know. You never know with
yeah,
them.
and it's
Probably
like
not, but they could.
yeah. So like Najee without the volume, just given he's not a big pass catcher much these days after his rookie year, like I don't know, it's kind of dark.
Wait,
ETN, I
what?
don't know.
ETN, Najee over ETN? No thanks. I would make that trade straight up. ETN for Najee?
I would take ETN, even though last
I
year
would
was a
too.
total disaster. But I like the new offense. I like the new offense. Yeah, I would take ETN over Najee, like easy, straight up.
Wow. Is it really?
Tra-
Is ETN's value really that low? You can get him
Tracy.
at RB28.
Tracy
That's way
over
too high.
Najee. That's
That's
a
way
good
too
thought
high.
exercise. Do I want Tyron
I'd rather have
Tracy?
Najee. Tyrone Tracy could be Damian Pierce. Like that.
I know.
Very real chance he's Damian Pierce.
I've been thinking, how do I get rid of him in my one team I have him. I was like, I don't think this is gonna last long. Last year was fun, but it was like that summer
Same
fling.
coaching
I
staff.
just gotta get rid of him.
Same coaching staff, which helps. But dude, he
Yeah.
kept fumbling. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
Tracy, but yeah.
He's weird.
Last
All right,
one.
who else
here.
we got? It's another
This
Steeler.
one's tough.
No,
No.
I'm kidding.
Oh, it's gonna crush. Man, this
yeah,
week
this
13 to 17 really just did me
This
so dirty.
I just think it's so over for Cooper Kupp. This is it's similar to the Justin Fields take, where it's like we're running on fumes here. Like, get value while you still can. Yeah, Cooper Kupp's 31 years old, going into his 9th NFL season. He's all the way down to wide receiver 52 on keep trade cut, and like I really don't think that's an overreaction. Man, it's just gotten a lot worse over the last 3 years. Like, just starting with the games played, like 9, 12, and 12, like that's a problem. That's that's a huge problem in terms of games played. You know, he's barely playing half a season at this point over the last 3 seasons. So like the reward, man, yeah, he was a Triple Crown winner. You know, for a couple of years, he was the best fantasy, like wide receiver in the game. But I do think it's over for him. It's like, and I think like I have a lot of respect for the Rams organization because I think they have a great eye for talent, and like they're just a good decision making, or like, it's an organization that's run well. And I'm sure like they have very good relationship with Cooper Kupp. I know Kupp and McVay, very good relationship, but I think what they've seen over the last like 2 years, like all the advanced analytics would kind of show you like Cooper Kupp has taken such a step back from like the 2021, 2022 seasons where he was still, an elite separator, elite wide receiver in the game. So you can get, it's like a mid to a late second. It's a similar price to Najee, which is crazy. And it's like, I guess would you rather have Cooper Kupp or Najee? Like probably
I
Cooper
don't know.
Kupp.
That's a way overvalued. Cooper Kupp is worth like. It depends where he signs, but man,
Depends where he signs, but like, yeah, he doesn't have a team. Yeah, he's missed a ton of games. The Rams kicked into the curb like a freaking bad habit. It's like there's just a lot of bad vibes here. A lot of bad vibes. So like for me, it's just get a mid early second rounder while you still can before this totally bottoms out. And like you obviously have to wait until he signs to a team. Like, if you pull off a Cooper Kupp trade with no team, good on you. Like get into sales and go make yourself some money. But
yeah,
I think I'm just
or
done with
stop.
Cooper.
Whoever's on the other end of that trade, just put your phone down. You don't need to make that trade right now. You don't.
Yeah.
I think this is
do not trade for Cooper Kupp right
This
now.
is a preemptive. Okay, so I guess the thought exercise then is, because we agree, Kupp is on the downswing of his career. He's older. He's now going from an offense that was basically built around his skill set to funnel him targets with a quarterback who's historically been incredible for wide receivers. He's now hitting the free agency market. We've got the Patriots interested. The Cowboys seem interested. I don't know if the Chargers are interested, but that seems like a fit because he wants to stay in LA. I think the Seahawks could be interested as well, from what I understand. Is there a destination you think that really increases his value and makes you think, I don't know if I want to trade him, or like, yes, I need to trade him because people are going to be excited about the destination? Which one
Um,
do you think that is?
I think the Chargers would excite me. I I think him and Lad is an interesting pairing. I think Dallas is interesting too. It's a little repetitive, like we said before we started today, where him and CD both excel in the slot. So that's a little funky. I'm not very excited about Seattle. I still think I'm very bullish on Sam Darnold in general this year, but um, I don't know, man. It's hard to really get me excited for Cooper Kupp this year. It's like the
Cowboys. I feel like Cowboys is a good
the
spot.
Cowboys, yeah, because at least
It's a
like
good
they're
spot
gonna,
for you to trade him for sure because
yeah,
people are going to be like, well, there's literally no one on this offense to catch targets. So, like,
yeah, it's
it's
just him and
CD,
CD,
Cooper
just
Cup.
him and CD,
So I think you can talk yourself into it with Cooper Cup in Dallas.
and they
Um,
pass a lot too. Like we know
they
they're gonna
do.
air it out. Like that's a
Dak's
pass out.
good.
They should kind of suck too. So I think like that should be a team that's just like constantly playing from behind or in close games.
When Cooper Cup's played, though, outside of this stretch again that I mentioned where he just absolutely ruined me, was this week's 13-17. Um,
Demolished people in fantasy playoffs. Absolutely demolished.
and it came out of nowhere, by the way.
There were some
Because
really good weeks. There were some really good weeks.
yeah, they were just feeding him, and they were like, actually, we're just gonna feed it to Puka.
Actually,
We'd rather
Puka's way
do that.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, but like Cup's not 100% washed, but he's getting there.
And it feels like
He's
quickly
getting
though.
there.
I just think the
Well, I
fact
mean,
that the Rams opted for
this
Devontae
happened
Adams, who
so
is like
fast.
Tay's what
This
30,
happened
right? What's Tay's
33.
age?
Tay's
older. Okay.
Yeah, Tay's
So the
older.
fact that they're taking on a 33-year-old Tay for, they like they didn't really save much. I think it was like a $5 million saving. Like I don't think this was a money decision. Like I think this was truly like Devontae Adams still has way more in the tank than you do. And
I
it's
also think it was a
like the writing's on the wall.
redundancy. I think it's a redundancy thing for them
Yeah, him
because
and
I think
Puka.
they want Puka to just take over Cooper Cup's role, and then Devontae can just beat man coverage. I think that's what the whole schematically that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Um, because they basically run everyone in their offense in motion outside of like the Demarcus Robinson role. Well, they've replaced Demarcus Robinson with Devontae Adams, and they can just basically have someone play that ancillary Cooper Cup role that does nothing, like, because he did literally nothing. They didn't target him at all down the stretch. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. The cup bottom fell out so quickly last year, kind of out of nowhere. And if he goes to the Cowboys, I actually do think it's a pretty decent sell window. And dude, like if he goes to the Patriots, I think people will talk themselves into it as well. Um,
Oh,
and if it's like
Patriots.
if he gets like a $15 million deal to be Drake May's number one, I do think people are going to talk themselves into that. And you could sell in that window, which I have a cup share. I will 1000% be doing that. Um, pretty pretty
Yeah, I don't know. This
confident.
is a hard one. I don't know. Like you really got to squint, but we need to see the team first. Like we need to see the squint. Yeah.
All right. Justin Fields, George Pickens, Najee Harris, Cooper Cup. Go sell them. Get them off your teams. Recoup value while you still can. Aiden, thank you so much for joining. We're going to talk buys next. Excited to get a little more positive. Stay tuned for
Buys are
both
fun.
of the buy. Stay tuned for the buys episode in your feed. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Until next time.